Hey everyone, it's James Wagley here. Welcome to the 201st episode of the Mortgage Broker Acceleration Podcast. And we had episode 200 last week. And so we're back to square one in some respects. 201 is a long way from 300. Ash, how do you feel about the 201st episode that we've got?
Well, we're back off the top of the mountain. Look, I thought I'd be a little bit down, thinking, 201. But then as you said, 200 episodes of anything's amazing. We love doing it, and I would argue, I enjoy it more now than I ever have because, we love our industry. It's very dynamic. There's lots of opportunities and challenges. And I think having a place like this where we can provide that voice, whether it's 201 or 1001, I think there's always going to be stuff that we're passionate about talking about that I hope is of value to our listeners. Tell us if it's not, but we hope it is.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, thanks, Ash. Listeners, hopefully you are doing well too. And today, and not just today, I guess the last month, this month we've been talking about build team, which is one of the key areas, one of the 9 key areas of building up a successful mortgage business out of our mortgage business blueprint. And to round off this month, we're going to do a bit of a case study to help you learn from the mistakes that we see brokers make when building a team. To give you some context, let's just say we've been doing this a long time. For a little bit more specific context, well, I've been helping brokers for almost 20 years, pushing 20 years, and we've also been brokers for a lot longer than that and run lots of different businesses, and we've helped hundreds. So we've seen a lot of mistakes. I've thought about a bunch, and I'm sure we'll think of a bunch more, but we want you to learn from these and avoid making them. So it's kind of like you may have made this mistake already, you may about to be it, or at some point in the future about to make it. So it's kind of like a bit of a, this will be helpful for people at various stages in their journey. I'll kick off, Ash, and then we'll list a few out. I'm going to go with this one first, and I've come up with some names for some of these, so we'll see. So mistakes brokers make when building a team. They try and hire the magic combo. So what do I mean by that? Ash, you've seen this, from our members and around the industry. They're trying to hire this magic combination. Oh, I want somebody that's really detailed and is a great para broker that's a gun and can also go out and generate business. That does not exist. This seeking of a magic combination of people. Oh, I want to hire a loan processor that can also hunt and gather and wants to become a broker, but really amazing currently at processing loans. Or it's a solo operator that's under the pump, needs to build out a team quite quickly, and their first hire is this. Oh, they want to try and hire somebody from the ground up, mentor them, and turn them into a mini me or something like. Magic combo is my first mistake. Maybe you can comment on that, and then you can come back at me with your own mistake.
Yeah, it's pretty natural, right, to hire people that are multi-skilled and can do lots of things. And maybe there are some people who can have a degree of competency at multiple different things, but that's a very short-lived strategy. Very short-lived strategy. I think for me, James, this goes back to one of our first principles, right? Look, we've been teaching for the whole amount of time we've been working together, right? And that is the order in which you build system versus hire people. So I sort of think this is one of the most fundamental mistakes that people make. I made it, and I see brokers still make it to this day, that they get busy, they become successful because of hard work, some basic system that's in their head, and they hire someone who they think will help them, and maybe they do, and then they try to build a system around the team, or the system takes shape around the team. It's probably more, it organically grows like fungus, like it grows around the shape of the host. So that's got a lot of negatives, and it's dangerous because it has short term. At short term, it looks like it works, but long term, it's very dangerous because the system takes the shape of the people, which means the people hold the IP. The system is dependent on the people. If the people leave, the system leaves. All of these things are clear and present dangers that can maybe not kill your business, but they're dangerous. So what people should do is invest in building the right system to suit the business model they want to build, and then hire people with the skill set to fit the roles. So it's probably partly answer to your question. I think people try to hire the well, I called him the decathlete in the last episode, right? They can throw the javelin, they can run, they can jump hurdles, they can shoot a rifle, or whatever the decathletes do, or that might be the pentathlete, whatever they do, right? So they're generally competent at a lot of things, but not specialist in one thing. But when you build a system that identifies roles with skill sets, you just hire the right person with the right skills. And if they happen to leave, you can replace them, because it's the system that's permanent. The people shape themselves to the system, not the other way around. That is a very common mistake. And it's right up there amongst the biggies, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a big one, and it ties into the magic combo as well, right? Because you need superstars when you have no system. And what happens when you've got no system? Well, number one, superstars get annoyed at that too, and then they could leave, so they hold all the cards. Off the back of your mistake, Ash, probably a subset of that one, and maybe mine, is the concept that we've taught before, which is that brokers will typically build a support team around them, as opposed to thinking more about being at the front of the ship and having everything else behind them, not around them. It's a similar thing. You're going to end up with the same team, right? Like whether they're flowing downstream or around, it's the same thing. Let's say you end up with a parabroker, a couple of credit analysts, or processors, whatever you call them. Same people, very different scenario. If they're around you, they all look towards you. You micromanage them. They rely on you. There's no systems or very little systems. It requires that person at the middle to really hold it together. Versus if you've got a system and a flow, the broker should think of themselves as at the front of the ship, and everything downstream is systemized and looked after by the team with less or no reliance on them. So that's like probably a subset of what you just said.
Oh yeah, and I made that mistake early on. I mean, I didn't know any better, and I think a lot of people coming into this industry don't know any better, right? There's no one necessarily advising this. I think the industry's improved, and there's a lot more advice and coaching in our industry, but I still think it's not focused on enough. And that is, why build a team around you where you're the center of gravity? If something happens to you, the whole thing collapses. Everything's dependent on you, and that is satisfying for a short period of time. It becomes very, very dangerous when the team are dependent on you for decisions, for structure, for direction, for everything. Whereas a production line, like in a factory, any role can be replaced because it's the system that's permanent. Now, that's not to say your people aren't important, and I'm not suggesting that, but it's the system which holds the business together. The people just operate the system, and you're part of the system. You're the one sticking the sausage meat on the conveyor belt. Great, right? But it's not built around you.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a couple that are similar to this, so maybe we keep on this theme because they're all kind of intertwined. But the next one I've got is a lot of brokers hire too late. There's a lot of reasons why people hire too late, which we don't have to get into, but it's a mistake. If you're, what's the comment we talk a lot at, Ash? If you need somebody, it's already too late, or something like that.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, no, by the time you recognize you need someone, it's probably too late. So, as you said, there's a lot of reasons that it happens, but maybe, what do you think the solution or the better way to do it is?
Yeah. It's more, I think it's just that overly conservative, not stepping into that business minded shoes. Like the average broker is like, well, it's just me, and a lot of our listeners may even have heard or say this themselves. Oh, I've got to have 6 months of salary for that person in the bank before I hire them, or I need to see that my numbers are this level before I hire somebody. And the problem, of course, is you're never going to get to that number consistently without that team. Like, you have to set yourself a goal, understand the numbers, and go about hitting them. That's business. Like, business is not about the luxury of, okay, great, I've got all this money in the bank and there's so much demand that I can definitely, no risk, hire this person because I need them, versus, hang on, I can see my business is growing. I'm already starting to stretch, and I'm going to back myself to go from this settlement volume to that settlement volume, knowing that this person is going to help add capacity to my system. So I think brokers are way too conservative, and it's pretty much because they haven't had the business training and acumen around and understanding the financials and profitability of a business to do it, and make the decision.
Yeah, that would have been huge for me back in the day, and I think it's huge for a lot of brokers today. That capacity to manage risk is different to avoiding risk, right? A lot of people that get into the mortgage industry think it's about, I'm not going to hire someone until the risk is gone. Well, that's not how building business works. Entrepreneurship, capitalism, whatever you want to call it, is you've got to take risks, but you go about it in a way that you can mitigate and manage the risk. That's what it's all about. And I think on the flip side of that too, James, is one of the biggest mistakes is impulsive hires, which is, I'm so desperate, I just hire the first person that looks half decent to fill the role and put them on and hope that it works, right? So there's those two things. It's waiting till cash flow supports a hire, and it's hiring someone impulsively, which is different to managing risk. Like, impulsiveness is not managing risk. Impulsiveness is what you do when there's risk, but you don't want to think about it, so you just go ahead anyway. Right? Sometimes impulsiveness works out, but mostly it doesn't.
No, it usually doesn't. Couple in the same sort of vein. We can maybe talk about these. Oh no, they're a little bit different. Expecting miracles is another one, and it usually comes as a subset of, well, hiring too late. If you hire too late, you're seriously under the pump and you're stressed, and you really need somebody to come and relieve that pressure instantly. So what you do is you hire somebody to take some of that breath away, work away, but you need and now expect this person to pull a miracle out. Like, you want them to basically start on day one and understand exactly how you and your business operate, how your process is. You want somebody with 10 years experience, but you want to pay them a 1 year's worth of experience salary. Like, this is what we hear from brokers. I want someone with 5 years experience, but I'm going to pay them 80 grand a year and expect to have an amazing loan writer or para broker. Like, forget it. So expecting miracles is what a lot of brokers, and they don't realize that there's work involved. Like, there'll be training time, there'll be, ups and downs. So expecting a miracle is a big one.
Very unusual to hire someone who can hit the ground running without a lot of support, onboarding, and indoctrination into your way of doing things. So the very nature of hiring someone means that you're going to have to step away from other duties in the business to do it properly. And that's a real challenge for a lot of brokers, right? So this is where impulsivity sort of kicks in. This is where hiring someone based on their resume and offering them more than their competitors, you think's the solution. Oh, I haven't got time to train them. They've just got to hit the ground running, right?
Yeah.
So even if people have the skills and the background that they can bring to the table, you will still be doing things differently and have different expectations, a different personality, a different work ethic, a different model, a different purpose, all of those things are different. So you've got to be prepared to put time in to bringing people onto the culture of your business and how you do things. And that doesn't happen via osmosis, right? They don't absorb it just by hanging around the business. Yeah. If only it was that easy. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, James. It's are there miracle workers out there? Yes, but you don't hire them because they're miracle workers. I think the miracle work emerges later when they
Exactly. And
freed up to express themselves and flourish.
100%. Yeah, one of the things you touched on there was another one of mine, which is no leadership. Uh, again, it's kind of, under the pump, hired too late, expecting a miracle or a magic solution, and expecting that, oh, I'm so busy still just writing deals and talking to customers and doing my thing that they don't provide any leadership to this team. They just expect that person to hit the ground running with no support, which you kind of touched on. I've got one more, and then I'm curious if you've got any bubbling away. Kind of not really a mistake. It's kind of a mistake. I'll see what you think of this one, Ash. But the thing I thought of or wrote down was this. It's actually a result, but it's still a mistake. So the result is static numbers, or So what I mean by that is, we're building a team, but that business owner doesn't actually have any proactive system in place to grow the numbers. Like, if you are hiring a team and increasing expenses, you need your settlement volumes to go up, or else you're literally just wasting money. Like, you are lowering your profit and employing someone in a job for nothing. So not actually going, okay, I'm at this level now, I'm doing 5 mil a month at whatever team, I'm going to hire these person or these two people, and they've done the numbers and go, I need to get to 7 mil a month. And I have a system for proactively looking at and driving those numbers to ensure I hit 7 mil a month as soon as possible. I've seen a lot of brokers build teams and their numbers don't go up for like months and months and months and months and months. But that's the only reason you build team, is to build capacity and scale. It's almost like they don't, it's the old, I'll build a team and I'm just expecting the phone to ring to now support this capacity. That there's no real urgency around, I've got this team, I need to maximize the capacity and the profitability of this team. How am I going to make sure that there's enough calls and meetings and settlements happening every week to pay all these people and to hit profit? Like, would you say that's a mistake? How would you categorize that?
That's a big one. It really is. You would have heard that the proverb, and I'm sure all our listeners have heard the old proverb or business maxim that work expands to fill the time available for its completion, right? So take that thinking into this environment. So you're busy, you're overwhelmed. In your mind, if I could just hire this person to free me up, I could go and get more customers and write more business. But you haven't really got a plan. You just need a breath, right? And you need someone in your business to give you that breathing space. So you go ahead, you make the hire, and you've got all these, this sort of loose plan that says somehow by magic, I'm going to be freed up and we're going to write more loans. But what inadvertently happens without a clear plan and a strategy and deliverables and action steps and KPIs, all of these things, what happens is you have one more person in your team and all the work that was already getting done expands to absorb the time of the person you just hired at the same level of productivity. I see that all the time. And the owner keeps walking past it for months, if not years, and then wakes up on the phone to us going, I've got 10 people in my team and I'm doing the volume of a team of 5 people. How is that possible? How is that possible? How did that happen? Right? It's like, well, you got to sort of trace it all the way back to what you just said, James, which is a really, really sharp insight. And that is, without a clear plan and action steps and deliverables and KPIs and metrics that support the hire to expand the production of your business, it will inevitably, if not always, fall back to the same level of volume, but with more heads to feed. Because that happens with work. I call that bank culture, which is there's no real strategy plan. It's just, we'll hire more people and the same amount of work gets produced. There's just more people doing it.
Yeah, I think this free episode, actually is worth tens of thousands of dollars to the right listeners. I was going to add something. I want to get your mistakes as well before we sort of go too far out of time. But one other concept around this static numbers thing is it's this concept, and you might disagree with me. It'd be interesting to put this out there. But the concept of leaders eat last. Have you heard about that one? Yeah. I think that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, if I'm the business owner and let's say you employ 10 people and you're broke because you've paid those 10 people, is that a good situation? No, that's awful. The business is out of business now. Now, taking away investing in staff and investing in growth, that's not what I'm talking about here. And 100% as a business owner will invest profits into hiring for great people and building into it. But this idea of, you hire, pay for everybody first, then feed yourself, I think that breeds a, the situation where the broker ends up taking home hardly any money, and as you said, has this unproductive, bloated team sitting around on payroll. So obviously, you always want to make sure your staff are getting paid. That's not what I'm talking about whatsoever. But the mindset of leaders eat last. Basically, a lot of business owners end up becoming martyrs to their business, keeping staff that aren't required, or keeping people too long, under or underperforming, or the volume's not there, because of that mentality in mind. I don't want to really go down that mentality too far, but I just thought I'd bring it up because we're talking about numbers, and I thought that was valuable.
Oh, you used the word that was spinning around in my head, James, and that is martyrdom. Like it's actually very common. This mindset, and where it comes from is debatable, but this mindset that I have to be the hardest worker, I have to go without, I have to sacrifice myself at the altar of my business in order to be seen as the right sort of leader, right? The leader that sacrifices everything for the business, right? That's the opposite of what you should be doing. I have this conversation a lot with brokers is you shouldn't be the hardest worker. Your mind is the most important asset of the business. Your mind, your creativity, what you know is the most valuable tool, not how many hours you work, not how hard you work. You should have 20, 30% of your time just relaxing so you can contemplate decisions and make relaxed, informed decisions. So so that does lead into making hiring mistakes because, and we pay people too much. We incentivize them incorrectly. We leave ourselves last. I see this a lot. Like, who wants to work for a business where the owner sacrifices themselves, and it's not wildly profitable? Like, I want to work for a business where the owner goes, you know what? I make a lot of money because we're good at what we do. The business is very profitable. Does that sound like an environment that you might want to flourish in? Yeah. Or do you want to work for a business where the owner doesn't pay themselves much and works long hours and the business barely breaks even? No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, good. I'm glad I brought it up now because it was like I read it recently in an article by a piece of advice by somebody that's supposedly successful in the industry. So I'm like, okay, there's another piece of really bad advice going around the industry. Have you got any that you actually, if people rewind about 1 minute, there was 3 or 4 you just dropped in there really quickly, mistakes. I think people should rewind. But are there any big ones that are on the tip of your tongue that we haven't touched on yet that our listeners can learn from in terms of mistakes we just see time and time again brokers making? Have we not touched on any huge ones that we should have?
A huge one. And I think it's been hinted at and maybe touched on. And it's fundamental to everything we've talked about. And that is the hiring of brokers in your business, right? It's connected to what business model you're building, where are you heading, what's the outcome, how are you trying, all of those things are interconnected. But I still think it's right up there. Probably it's for certain business owners, it's the most common mistake is to hire brokers for the wrong reason and to hire the wrong brokers or to recruit the wrong brokers. And within that, what I'm saying is it's amazing how often people recruit operators when they need entrepreneurs and recruit entrepreneurs when they need operators. So, I've used those terms before, James. So an operator is somebody who's fantastic on the production line if you put them in a room with a prospect, right? They'll smash it out of the park. Yep, technically proficient, good one-on-one when you're sitting with a client who wants to be there, right? Great. Bang it out of the park. But you set them out of the office to go knock on doors and win business, they'll just melt into a puddle on the footpath. But people hire them and want them to go and do that. And the opposite is true. I see broking businesses hire real go-getters and entrepreneurial business builders and try to slot them into a seat on a production line where they're just asked to convert appointments. It's the wrong way round. It needs to be the other way. So that's a very, very common mistake, which is also aligned with one of the other mistakes we've talked about, which is, why are you hiring brokers? You know, is it to make money? Is it to free you up? Is it part of your business strategy? I see this a lot too. You'd be amazed. Well, you're probably not, because you've seen it too. People would be amazed how often there's brokers working for other people who are on some commission split. And I ask the owner, why have you got that broker working in your business? And they can't tell me.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you make much money? Not really. Well, why are you doing it? Right. So that is a common mistake, to go down that path of putting brokers in your business before you've built a system, before you understand your methodology or your model. So that's a very big area of mistake and problem. And I know brokers listening to this, James, will be, you know, it'll be resonating, because it's the one area I think where most brokers have heart palpitations, is hiring other brokers. Are they going to steal my money? Am I going to teach them everything and then they go out in competition? What if this? What if this? I think it's the area of more heartburn than any other for business owners wanting to build a sales force, right? Is, how do I find them? How do I keep them? How do I incentivize them? How do I protect my IP? There's so much in that, right? So they end up hiring, I think we mentioned it in the last episode, people like them because, oh, they're like me, they'll do the right thing. It's not the...
So true.
Yeah.
So true, mate. I love that. And a couple of things I picked up in there is, to add on to that is, well, losing people is a mistake. You know, mistakes brokers make when building a team. Well, losing people you shouldn't have lost, because you were a pain in the ass to work with, because you had overly ridiculous expectations. You didn't lead them very well. You know, you put the wrong person into the wrong job. A lot of brokers losing and churning staff because they're just, you know, not in creating the right environment. And then just piggybacking on what you said quickly, Ash. Oh yeah, that's a huge one. The wrong deal for the wrong person. Like, and we should give quick examples to listeners, but what we mean, like, we've seen people hiring loan writers that are fed, but they're sharing commissions and trail. like, why would you give a share of commissions and your trail to somebody that's getting fed a loan? Like, they're wrong deals for the wrong people. Like, it blows my mind. As you said before, you have a broking business with 10 brokers in it, but are you even making any money on these people, like off these brokers working under you? Like, the wrong deals for the wrong person is a big one. So, and look, this is, I know I sort of like, you know, laugh a little bit, but it's not a laughing matter. Like, this is brokers trying to do really complex things, like build out business, understand capacity, profitability, business models, with little to no help. Like, the help in the industry outside of what we do is, you know, it's not there. So unless you're knocking on our door and really getting that high level expertise and understand models and profitability and why you're doing it, you're most likely going to find yourself making unintended mistakes, thinking you're actually doing the right thing, thinking, oh yeah, I've got 5 brokers, or I got these people and I do this and blah blah blah. It's growing and it's happening, but you look under the sheets and under the cover and in their financials, and it's like, oh my god, what are you doing? Like, so we do not mean to be mean or rude. We're just hopefully giving people a wake up call with this case study. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ash?
Oh, totally, James. I mean, my sort of summarizing argument to the jury is it's the number one area that used to keep me awake at night. So I feel your pain, listeners. Like, I feel your pain. Out of all of the things in mortgage broking, the thing that kept me awake at night more than anything else is hiring people and building a team. Right? Really hard, difficult, emotional, anxious, stressful, financially challenging. All of these things are wrapped around building a team. So it is a very complex, tricky thing to do. I feel your pain, but I think that's why we're here, James, is to not avoid the pain. It's to talk about the pain, to bring it out into the open, right? It's real, it exists. Let's not pretend it doesn't, but you've got people to talk to, right?
Yeah.
About what it's like and how to potentially navigate your way through it more quickly and more easily.
Yeah, it's no it's very, yeah, there's a lot to this, and there's a lot of stress and stuff that brokers have when building teams. So if we round out this episode, I guess this month on Build Team, we talked about creating A players and stars in team advancement. We challenge you with a question: should you build or not build a team, even like based on what you really want in your life and financially, and how to get there the fastest way possible. How to hire the right person to complement your your weaknesses, etc. So there's been a lot of good stuff in the last few episodes, and not to mention this one, a bit of a fast money style episode with a ton of consistent mistakes that we hope you will all avoid. So hopefully this episode and this month has provided you with some insights into what you need to be considering as you build out a team in a business, and doing it in a way that's going to work for you, for your life, financially, to your skills. And if you do decide to build out a team, how to make sure that those people are happy and productive and everybody's winning. So again, there's a lot to this. Knock on our door and let's talk, because the mistakes in terms of building a team are tenfold what it would cost to get the right advice and strategy from people like us. So it's a no-brainer for anybody that's looking to build or already has a team. So a bit from me.
We're here to help shorten the learning curve, and building a team is fundamental to building a business that can operate with or without you, right? You can't do it without a team. No amount of technology, system, platform, resources, that's all important, but none of it replaces a team that can operate the business without you. So building a team is probably the single most important part of business, but also the trickiest, because you're dealing with people, not with robots. All right. So
yet.
Well, maybe that's a future episode.
Yeah, Ash, I was going to say, this is our happy 201st episode. Maybe if it was the 2001st episode, we would be talking about hiring robots in your business.
Well, it wouldn't be you and me talking, James. It would be the AI version of you and me. Let's go.
Classic. Happy 201st episode, Ash. And next month, we'll be talking about a different topic from our blueprint. So we'll be focusing on something different next month. But until next week, again, have an amazing week as always. And thanks for listening, Ash. I'll see you next week.
Hey, James. See you then.